All right, guys, it is a gorgeous day in Colorado. It's just beautiful. I mean, it's fall, but it feels like Indian summer, right? So I'm just at Focus on the Family here, and I'll be going in. I might even read outside today. It's gorgeous. The trees are starting to change colors. I love it. So listen, I had someone on my YouTube channel talking about how she wanted to give her opinion. You know what? I said, well, thank you. And, basically, I will always give my opinion too. So, what do we do when family is like, Melissa just always has her own opinions, or all that matters is what Melissa thinks? Okay, so relationships are a two-way street, right? So when somebody gives their opinion, you are welcome to give your opinion, right? It's not like you have to be quiet and just listen to them. So, but on top of that, not just having opinions, but there's an order in life, right? There's like I work, so my boss is the one who pretty much has the final word. Um, in the basics, right? So I work, and my boss, a leader is a servant, right? And that's what I did with my family. I served my family, and basically just letting them know about God because you care about them, right? And they think I'm crazy or whatever because I believe in God, and that's just because they're ignorant. So you can't really use that against them. Okay, they're ignorant. So but when you have family and you're trying to love them and you're trying to serve them and show them a better way, and they're just like, oh, all you care about is your opinions. Leadership serves. And so like for my boss, right, he'll be like, he'll tell me what he wants. Like he said, he wanted me to clean the other night the third floor, the first floor, then the second floor. And I'm like, well, actually, I think it's better if I clean the third floor, second floor, and then the first floor, so I'm not as tired the time I get to the first floor. So he was like, okay, yeah. So there's nothing wrong with speaking your mind. Okay. So I mean, I had the better idea because um, first floor doesn't have as many bathrooms. I'm starting with the hardest part, right? So he did have a point though that they were dusting on one of the floors. So there, you got to kind of work together too, right? So there was that, and then another thing was my boss had said, this is what I want done. And he corrected, some of my expectations and his. And I'm like, okay, okay. You're supposed to submit to your boss, right? Unless it's something major. Submit, 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 right? Life is not all about submission either. There's relationship. So he's been very kind, and I really appreciate that. And then another thing is, so my other boss, right? I got another one. I got a supervisor. He's like, look, why don't you just use less rags? And I'm like, well, no, because of this. And he's like, right, I know you care about the sanitary part of it, but you're going through a lot of rags. And I'm like, well, I can't not go through a lot of rags right now because I just can't. I have 3 floors to do, and this is what I need. So he thought it would be easier for me not to carry around so many rags too on my cart and put some in the closet. So he's like, why don't you just do, one rag a floor? And so I thought about it and I said, we can try it. I was willing to yield, which is important to another's, thoughts and opinions. And then I took the rags back out of the closet because I'm like, nope, I need them. So he hasn't said anything. Either he doesn't know or he just hasn't said anything. And there's kind of like a submitting to one another, right? When you're working together. But the bottom line is if your boss comes down firmly about something and says, this is, pretty much bottom line, not a command, but this is my final say on this, then that's kind of like, okay, you're the boss and it's pretty much the way it's going to go. Unless you really have an issue, then you can't work for that person, right? It's not a good fit. So there's got to be a lot happening to not have a good fit. Otherwise you just need a lot of communication. So let's take this into marriage, right? You have to communicate. You have to be willing to talk things out a lot when you're married because it's the number one relationship in your life. It is very important, a marriage. Let's take this with grandparenting. Okay, so when I married my husband's parents wanted everything to go their way, and I was like, no, no, I'm the mom, you're the grandmother, what I say goes. Okay, so that's the bottom line of it all. Was I willing to go over there? Yes. Was I willing to share my life with them? Yes. I invited them to Boy Scouts. I invited them to popcorn sales. Um, there were a couple times I really did put my foot down. Like one of my sons, I didn't want him to have candy. He had some low muscle tone issues. There was like hard candy, and I'm like, no, I don't want him having that because he's going to choke. And, you know, my mother in law was like, oh, he'll be fine. So she gave him candy, anyways, without my permission. And sure enough, he choked. So I was the one dealing with it, right? Hitting him on the back and trying to get this Christmas candy up so that he didn't die. Another time, we're swimming at the pool. Oh, he's fine. You don't have to watch him. I'm like, no, I need to watch my kids very carefully in the pool. He's fine. Sure enough, he falls in the pool and he just floats. He's not swimming or anything. So I have to jump in and I have to save him, right? So there is a reason why there is a certain order in life. So for me, if I don't listen to my boss, he answers to the big guys, right? And he can be in trouble. For me, I answer to God. I have a responsibility in how I took care of my kids, how I trained them, how I corrected them, how I did not correct them. And that is a parent issue. So, grandparenting does not mean you are a parent. It means you are a grandparent, which means you work with your kids, right? You don't overstep your boundaries with your kids all the time, or otherwise, you don't have a good relationship with your kids. So, there is a fine line of grandparenting and parenting. Um, and with your husband, hopefully you are on the same page enough to be cooperating with one another, and you complement each other. You're not what's the word? Some people will say you have nothing in common. I forget what that's called. Um, but anyways, no. You want to. I mean, there really shouldn't have to be many issues in your marriage, because marriage, you should be so close and intimate and so connected that you really don't have issues. Same with your kids. There shouldn't be a lot of issues because you've already laid down the foundation. You're the parent and your kid is not. And it sounds firm, but it's actually for the good in the end. It really is, because you want what's best for your kids. As far as the grandparents, they're not part of that immediate family. They're not the husband, wife, mom, dad. They're not the immediate family. So they can come along and support you and be a good influence. But if you see that influence coming up against you all the time and just being like, you know, divisive, oh, your wife's a gold digger, or your mother has to always be, wanting things her way, and you see that divisiveness in the grandparenting, you want to cut that. And so we had decided for a time not to go over as much after going over every weekend, and that was really healthy because it helped us to focus on our family more. And when your parents are just wanting to be filled, and they just don't want to be, they want you to use you, that's not really giving to the health of a whole family. So grandparents have a role, but it's not in usurping authority over the mom and dad. So that's what I got for now, guys.